What's up? What's up, Milwaukee and the world? Welcome to another episode of Believers After Dark right here on Saved and the City TV with your girl Iberia. And yes, you are locked to the right place and the right time for your kingdom solutions for real world issues. And yes, here at Believers After Dark, we keep it real. It's raw, it's uncut, but it's absolutely necessary. It's not your typical Christian conversation, but again, it's absolutely necessary. And I'm so excited that I don't have to be talking to an empty room, that I have some amazing folks that are joining me on this evening. And before we even get into it, I just need to double check. Do you got your stone? Okay, because we know sometimes we talk about topics that are a little uncomfortable and maybe, you know, it makes you feel that maybe you have a different opinion. But we always like to have a reminder of this stone, and each one of our guests gets it. As you're listening in on the conversation, before you put your judgmental hat on, think about it. Flip the script. What if it was you? What if it was your daughter? What if it was your son? And really try to be connected. So again, I'm so excited that I don't have to do this all alone, and I have these amazing folks that are joining me today to discuss today's topic. We've done it once before. We had to bring it back again. The topic on the table today is perps in the church. Yes, perps in the church. What's a perp? A perpetrator. And so basically the synopsis in a nutshell is the church is thought to be a place of safety and refuge, a place where the broken and vulnerable can come to be healed and taught the straight and narrow path. For some, it has been a place of innocence lost, broken trust and abuse. And so tonight we're going to discuss perpetrators in the church, victims of religious abuse, and how to identify the signs of an unhealthy spiritual leader. And that's unfortunate. And so that's why I'm so excited that we have even JoLanda, our resident counselor here at Believers After Dark, joining us for this particular conversation. Before we introduce the other two, talk a little bit about your talk series, because that perpetrator piece is so stand out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the talk series, it includes 3 pocket messages. Mm-hmm. One of them is to survivors of sexual abuse. The other one is to responders of sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. And then there's a specific book just written specifically for perpetrators.
That just blows my mind.
And what it does is really look at the mindset of a perpetrator, the process that leads to facilitating abuse. And in the book, it's written toward sexual abuse. However, the instant gratification that a perpetrator seeks, some of the mindsets, the need under the need can really cross over in so many different areas, even when we talk about spiritual leaders and pastors. Like, what is that need under that need that's causing them to be a hireling rather than a shepherd? So.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, and we're in.
Right. That came out real, and I was like, whoa.
Welcome to Believers After Dark. And you already know I'm here for all of that. And we also have the beautiful Jerhonda McCray. Yay, so cute today. And well, every day that I see you. Yes, girl, come on in here. Okay. So tell the folk, for those people who don't know you, a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you're hoping to contribute to this conversation.
Well, right now I'm a resident PhD student. Seems like it's going forever.
Yes. Well, come on, Dr. McCray. I'm here for it. Yes.
Right. If it ever happens, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah,
so
it's happening.
The PhD actually is in education, and I'm at a Christian university. So everything that we do is with a biblical worldview, right? Mm-hmm. So ultimately, this conversation is pretty prevalent to the church as well as the world. And so I'm hoping that I can give you a dual perspective on where this is coming from, some forms of microaggression that we can bring on with stereotypical things. We can stereotype the church, be pretty harsh on us, but in the same vein, I think there is some responsibility that the flock has to use just basic common sense.
Oh, how about it?
So ultimately, I'm the no nonsense person. So Pastor Tim is very much aware that I'm probably the opposite person. Right. I'm probably the opposite person that comes in and terrorizes the pastor. So they'll be like, get her out of the church. Quickly. but I love the word, and I think that it's very important that we're able to identify and we help those to be responsible when they come into the body and don't drop principles, life principles. And I think quite often people don't have, they may not have them, and we have a higher expectation than we should for those that are coming. So I'm just hoping to bring the street knowledge that I have and the Christian knowledge that I have.
Yes, bring it all.
We can salt up the conversation a little bit and season it, and hopefully someone will be able to have a great takeaway from what we have to say.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah. And Pastor Tim, I'm so glad that you're here. Talk to us.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. That's it. They laid it all out, so I don't have anything else to say.
But who is you?
Oh, who is he? Well, me is, as was mentioned, Tim McMurtry, Associate Pastor at World Outreach Center under the wonderful tutelage of our senior pastors, Irvin and Melvin Henderson. Wonderful teachers, great shepherds. Also serve as state director for Christians United for Israel, which is the largest grassroots, faith-based, pro-Israel organization in the nation, numbering about 5.6 million members now. I have a couple other capacities that I'll walk in as well. Manager of community relations at Employ Milwaukee. I also have a business consultancy, Tim McMurtry International. And so being in leadership positions, I'm very familiar with it. And I think that there are a lot of things that have been kind of touched upon already that really kind of serve as precursors to perpetration. Come on now. Perpetration.
He wasn't excited about perpetration, just as in case you got he just liked the way that he put that together. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you for that disclaimer. Okay, Appreciate it.
I'm your sister. I wanted to help you out.
Love and teamwork make the dream work.
Yes.
And so there are circumstances and situations that if an individual doesn't have the appropriate character, that those breaches in confidence and trust can take place, unfortunately. And I think in the church is no exception to any other profession. We see it in every sector, really. Most recently, I would, liken it to education. Teachers and students, medicine, medical doctors taking advantage of patients. I mean, so we live in a society where everybody, doesn't carry themselves in the most appropriate way all the time. It just gets amplified when it's in a setting like a church, which is the last place one would, and rightfully so, expect for these types of offenses to take place, but it's no exception either.
It's so unfortunate. Something just came up just right away, and then again, just a reminder, this is a conversation, so, as we now kind of dive into the topic at hand, feel free to kind of jump in as you feel it, but something that just kind of I thought about, a lot of times when we say like something like Perps in the church, or we call out the church, we think immediately the pastor as the I mean, probably obviously because he or she is the head, but sometimes the perpetrator is not the pastor. It very well could be someone else, that is in leadership, or just another person in the church in itself. And but if we're thinking about the terms of leadership, I think for the bigger churches, maybe it's a easier way to be able to maybe run checks and make sure that certain people are equipped to handle. But I think sometimes when you're in a smaller ministry or a growing ministry, you're just trying to get seats in the positions. And so, for those people, I guess it's kind of one of the questions I'll just kind of throw out. And again, it's not really an interview, but so one of the questions though that I would throw. So how do you begin? Like for those ministries that don't have people, but then I don't have time to run your background down, but you want to teach the kids? Great.
You don't have time to not run their background down. So, and JoLanda mentioned something just when she was opening up. She was like, as far as members just having common sense. And when she said that, it kind of like, stuck something, because if we think in the terms of church and as far as our members being sheep are dumb. They don't have common sense. So it places the responsibility on the leaders and on those that are responsible for serving them, for keeping them safe.
Well, I actually, I'm not going to holistically agree, but I think that when you come into a church, if you give me a second and let's make up a scenario. So we look at someone that has never been churched. never been here,
Yeah.
never walked their foot in the church, and might have been an atheist. Okay, so let's talk about this atheist that walked up in the church, doughy-eyed or apprehensive. They came with some faculties. They walked in possibly, and there are some standout things with the church that you have to decide when I'm walking in here, what am I coming for? When you look at trust, who can I trust? You're walking into an unfamiliar environment.
Yeah.
So I look at the church in some respects like an alley, a dark alley. When I'm going down a dark alley, I have to be aware of my surroundings. I have to be aware.
How many people are thinking that, though?
But should we even have to think that? I mean,
believe
it's
you
the
should.
church, it's the body.
I think.
Well,
go ahead. You can
I think there is a stereotype of what we think the church is.
Now
we're
you're
people.
making a point. Now,
We're humans. We're people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the leader. I thank God I don't have that testimony.
Yeah.
I've actually had some pretty great leaders.
Yeah.
And so I've had more instances where I've noticed and seen the body act a fool and the body take advantage of someone. And so that would actually segue us into we're all leaders. We all have a responsibility to take care of the flock, to take care of each other, to love each other according to Galatians. You know, David said that if I see someone that is deceitful, you can't walk in front of my house. You can't come into my house. And so our houses as a whole is our space, our atmosphere. And so, yes, as a sister, I just saw the atheist walk in the door. I don't know you. Now, the careful part here is, do I pull you inside and say, stay away from Pastor Tim? Don't listen to Iberia. You're crossing a threshold that the best thing for me, and I would tell any new saint and Christian or any new visitor, walk in love and walk in a place where you can discern what's happening. You know, and I'll stop with this and let everybody else talk. There's a T-shirt I love right now. The T-shirt says, "My discernment said no."
I need one.
Yeah,
I need to know. I love where to buy it.
My discernment said no.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I mean when I say common sense is particular to one that has, of course, the knowledge.
Yeah.
But when I walk down that dark alley, I have to be careful and I have to assess where I'm going.
Yeah.
Who could put me in danger? Is this a street that I'm familiar with? I need to take some precautions.
Yeah, I think there's a level of both and.
Yeah, I have such an
with
interesting.
that.
Okay.
I mean, to JoLanda's point, when I come into a place, the church, I don't think I have an expectation of safety. You know, this is the church. It's the hospital for the people that are in need. All of that. This is the place, you know, the house of God. When we think of church, traditional or not, it is a place of refuge, a place of peace. That's what it's supposed to be. So if one thinks that coming in, that's cool. That's a reasonable expectation.
Absolutely.
Simultaneous to that, one having that reasonable expectation does not exempt them from natural responsibilities. I liken it to like when our children, I have an 18-year-old son, my wife and I, 18-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. And, you know, my wife is, you know, I'm more of a freestyler. She by the Joker, just show me the proof. So
Love you, Pastor Cheryl.
me too, baby. So when we had our children, when they were young, there was an insistence. Now, we didn't really talk about this before we got married and counseling. This is how we're going to raise our kids in this particular area. But our kids wasn't spending the night over nobody's house.
Absolutely.
Nobody. I got a big family, and, you know, our family, she's from Chicago. But the rule became evident very, very early that, I know that's so-and-so and so-and-so, but we're not going to subject our kids to even that possibility. So my point in that is not that there was readily identifiable individual, okay, that's perp number 1, perp number 2, perp number 3, but more from a standpoint of, we're not even going to take that chance.
I understand.
You know, because we're here. Your family, I understand that. supposed to be saved. I'm just gonna drop them off real quick, or we go on a little date night. They're gonna get babysat by so and so and so and so.
Nope.
But nah, So there is, some both ends. You can have expectations for an environment, but at the same time, we are responsible for at least a modicum of let me proceed with caution in every environment.
And I'm not anti the responsibility. I totally agree with that. I guess the other component is common sense is not common. And when you think of the atheist or the unchurched person that comes in and they have this expectation of what church should be and that it is a place of safety, and then they form a bond or a relationship, not necessarily with the leaders, but with somebody that's in leadership in the church, and then they're taken advantage of, because of what I feel like I should trust you. Like when I think of that dark alley path, for me, I walk into work like that, or if it's in an unfamiliar situation. But when I go into the house of God, just from what I've been taught, and when we think about the community, what we've been taught, we don't go in, which I totally see that perspective, but we don't go in with those apprehensions of.
And who wants to go? I'm trying to draw the folk to Christ. Come on down this dark alley. Right. And I know that's not what we're saying, you know what I mean? And actually I completely get that point, and I think we need to be more aware, and that way we're not putting these leaders up on these pedestals, and then when they fail, whether that's the pastor or someone else in leadership, then we condemn the entire church, for it, when we have a more clear perspective that these are men, they potentially could fail us, but these dark alley, these are women, and I was just saying, as a whole, but these are women. But I just have an issue with the dark alley kind of take on it, because I don't want to go down the dark alley. Like, I feel some type of way about that. So hold that and say something back to that if you want. And then the other part is, you said something about if someone comes in, don't say, now watch out for sister such and such, and that is hypocritical. But I'm just being 100% transparent in my thought. If for some reason, because the church decided they didn't want to turn away this particular person because they're broken and they're in whatever, and where else can they come? This is where they're supposed to come to be healed. In so many words, at least that's what we're taught. And I know that this person has done something to somebody in the church, and then I see this on someone else, and I might be wrong, y'all check me, and I see somebody else sending their child with them, I'm saying something.
My discernment said no.
Right, my discernment said nah.
But I love it.
Double nah. But I think what you're talking about is definitely the responsibility of the church to have, and I don't want to bring this so structured, they need to have a new believers class. They need to have a visitors class.
Okay, yes.
Basics. Basics.
That's good.
If you come in, if you choose to, do a little, this is what we're going to teach you, because one comment that you made is that they come in and then they get abused. They end up in these toxic situations, and we lose them. Today we have the worst population and demographic of churchgoers. So, to your point, they're there. But I don't think we're being proactive enough to say, all right, brother atheist, we really highly recommend that you go through one of our new believers, new visitors courses, and then put that part in there. Advise them that these are humans, these are people, because, I teach a course that you don't throw away the receptacle, the person. You try to get rid of the garbage. But some folks just stink. At the end of the day, they smell. And so, Pastor Tim, one thing that you had said, do you remember years ago when we were in church and that group of women went up north? Okay, so the scenario was all, me, you, and all of us went.
You look like you're ready.
No, we went up north to a prayer conference, and we were praying. It was advertised. It was pretty popular, and so we all went up, and it seemed pretty normal. There was a caveat, though. When you got there, you could not read your Bible.
Whoa. My discernment said
Stage
no.
way. Your stage
My
left.
discernment said, oh, no.
You can't read your Bible. All we were going to do is pray. This is a prayer conference. So they kept going through the weekend, and some folks were just like, yeah, this isn't feeling right. One by one, they left. More of the mature people, more of the people that saying, this isn't right. We should go. Well, one of the ladies decided to stay. Is it ringing a bell? One of the ladies decided to stay. And before she knew it, they were chanting. As they got to chanting, her mind snapped. And she eventually committed suicide.
What?
Oh, yeah. This
Like
is a
in
true
real
story.
life.
Now you remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting part. The leader got blamed for all of this.
For the K.
The result of the leader getting blamed for it was, now we can't go anywhere without his permission for a little bit. As a member, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I have to, as a group, we had to tell this person,
Gotta get permission.
can we go? Can we go to the Essence Festival to see the Christian stage? Because now there's a fear that my sheep don't have common sense with the basic principles
Who
of
left
the word.
her behind? I guess that's my
Well,
question.
you wanted to be left behind.
Well, see, I guess the thing is,
I
even
can't make you come.
You're grown.
You can't. But I mean, even in the street, if you go to club, we go together, we
Oh,
lead
we-
together.
Yeah.
But that's common sense.
Yeah, true story, and it's
One
not
time
common.
I stayed in a club by myself and I almost got robbed. But you
That's
know,
what had happened.
And sometimes when you try to come and you have, hey, this doesn't feel right. This is off. We about to bounce. If a person says, no, listen,
Yeah.
you really need to come with us now. This is not cool.
Yeah.
If they insist on staying,
Absolutely.
short of, look, I'm going to grab your arm and yank you, ninja, you coming right now. If they don't come, they don't come. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Because what else?
What am I supposed to do?
Oh my God!
You know? But to that point though,
Wow.
to know that even in church, that you might want to be mindful of, and if you can embed that into some sort of training or facilitation,
It's so
some
important.
introductory
Yeah.
thing
Important.
to let people know, hey, this is the menu of what you got going on here.
Right. Yeah.
Section 2A is this, section 3B paragraph F is that.
And now sign it.
Right. I mean,
Wow.
and that's just where we are in today's society, where you have to take these kind of measures. It seems like, man, we got to go through all of that.
Wow.
Because why?
Yeah.
Because an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Come on in here.
That's why.
I mean, there's a author, I believe his name is J.P. Morgan, that talked about a thin world, that we live in this thin world. It's so thin we don't think. We allow social media to think for us. We don't have accountability anymore. We just kind of go through life and we've torn away at all of these layers of intellect, torn away the layers of spirituality.
Yeah.
We just kind of are, we're here. We're
Out
living.
here.
We're just
Yeah.
out here. And so the church is definitely a place where you can come in and feel that Spirit of God.
Should be.
Feel that counsel, but it also it's a place where people land, and they always have. They always have been here. I mean, if you think about from the Romans to the Puritans to the Catholicism, they've always been here. And when you talk about specific leaders, when you talk about a particular there was a time when the Bible was written in a way that nobody understood it except the priest.
Right.
I could tell you
The
just
dark
about
ages.
anything.
The
Right.
dark ages.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's
Actually, you guys, I know it's getting well. It's been good, but we do have to take one quick break, and I do want to kind of change it up a bit. But maybe we'll come back with your point. But then I want to touch on this because this is something that Dr. Peterson said the last time we did the first Perps in the church. So it was JoLanda, myself, and Dr. Joel Peterson, and he brought up something about pastors, and he said that if a pastor sleeps with someone in his flock, that is, even if he's married, that is not considered adultery. That is considered abuse. I mean, I guess it's adultery in addition to it. Or let's say the pastor is single, it's considered abuse. And so the flip side of that, and again, I don't want to make light, because when you say the word groupies, people giggle, but there is a such thing as church groupies. There's a such thing as groupies around musicians. Church musicians is very real. And so, and sometimes there's a pressing in, especially knowing certain weak points of men, and I mean man as in general, not just a man. And so I guess my question is, I don't even know what to say without making it just sound like because I think you said something else. We don't want to victimize the victim,
right?
I mean, that's not what you said. It was something else. Not victimize the victim. It was something else that you said.
Get to the need under the need.
Yeah.
I promise you, I just looked like both.
Thank you. That's it. Okay, so y'all got that?
Yeah.
We coming back after that. I couldn't get it out, or almost got it out. They got me underneath it, and we coming back right after this.
What happens in our house stays in our house. But what do you do when trauma happens in the house? This is an invitation to finally talk. Tell your story, accept your truth, learn your identity, and know your strength. Talk presents a pocket message series offering resources to process, heal, and provide support for survivors. The series provides heart-stirring commentary on the reality of childhood sexual abuse with insight from Dr. Ramona Woods, Dr. Mark Ongley, author Victoria McAfee, Sarah Reek, LPC, and Austin Reese of Lotus Legal. This series includes 3 messages that can be purchased for $10 each, or the 3-part series for $25. Purchase the series and schedule a talk presentation for your school, daycare, church, or organization today at talkconsulting.net.
And we are back. You guys are locked live to Believers After Dark right here on Saved in the City TV. And we're talking about perps in the church. And now we're going to talk about groupies in the pews. No.
Lurking in the church house. Lord Jesus.
Yeah. We'll leave it right there. But no, when we went off, I was trying to make a point, and y'all got it. And it was the need under the need. So, and Pastor Tim said, come back with what you said. So, yeah.
Well, the aspect that we were speaking about is the need under the need for both the victim as well as for the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And that there is something underneath that for both of them. The reality is we live in a broken world. We are broken humanity. We are in sin. And when we're broken, and there's things underneath that for the perpetrator, if it is fulfilling that need of control, or that need to be adored or involved.
Definitely adored,
and the need for the victim to be accepted, to be loved. And so while both people are trying to fulfill and meet that need, those are a lot of times where conditions for abuse are perfect and they take place. When it comes to leadership, though, with people in the church, one reason why I admire the fact when we honor leaders as a mother or father in the gospel, because the reality is fathers don't sleep with daughters, regardless how you twist it or shape it or whatever. If that is your daughter in the kingdom, just like your daughter in the natural, you don't sleep with her because that's your baby.
No, I totally get it. Something rose up in you when we said need under the need.
Well, I mean, I think about so many women and men that ease into this counseling situation. I just have a need, and the relationship builds, you know, there's connections sometimes and understandings, and as you move forward, and it's not to justify it whatsoever, but as you get there, it's like, well, I really feel you, sister, I really feel you, brother, we should go for a walk, or
by the lake,
walk it off.
You said walk it off, exactly. There's some, again, and I'm so happy if it was going on, and I was pretty close to a lot of pastors. I got to be behind the scenes. I've never seen any of my pastors do this, but I will tell you this: they put fail-safes in place, so that wouldn't happen. Number one, we don't counsel alone. A man doesn't counsel a woman. Now, that doesn't work when you have a male and a male that may be attracted to each other.
Help us. That's another layer. Another layer.
There's a little twist. one thing that I never did, to Pastor Tim's point, my kids never had counseling with a man by themselves. One time I slipped up. Man, here we go. One time I slipped up and allowed a friendship. It wasn't even a sleepover. A friendship to develop, and my son was taken advantage of by a woman.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Had my son messed up. It was a good time for her though, because I was right in the middle of some stuff, and I was like, God blessed her.
Wow.
But he blessed her. But it put my son in an unhealthy state. And because of that, my guards were down, and it wasn't even it was just my trust between her and me. I had no idea what was going on. So I'm sure everybody's like, what kind of mother are you? I was a great mother.
No, they got their stones.
Amen.
They good.
Yeah.
You know, this was my son watching us at praise and worship rehearsal. That's how it was so quick.
Because the lady was in the church.
Yes, she was.
Oh, the lady was in the church.
Oh,
Yeah.
she went to our church. So, you know, you have those type of situations where I learned after that. You know, I had one of my sons got into trouble, and a male was like, "Can I meet with your son?" Oh no,
Right.
that's never going to happen. I'll be there, but you're never going to meet with my son alone. And so I think that we have a responsibility as the ministry, as a leader,
For sure.
to set up the rules of what we do and don't do. And you know, I've never been, I don't have the tough skin to take on eldership or different things like that. Mainly because I don't have the tolerance for people sometimes.
Okay.
She's got
But
that
Pastor
that
Tim-
progressive salvation.
Amen.
She still got knives, so she'll stab a joker.
Man, that's not me. It's happening. But Pastor Tim could probably tell us, you know, he's been in this position for a really long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Go there.
the need under the knee.
Yeah.
I think
Whole pastor,
there are two things. One, I was watching an interview about a year and a half or so ago with Michael Brooks, you know, former member of a commission, you know, co-wrote most of the songs with Fred Hammond. He and his wife, Elisa Page. And on the interview, I caught it like mid-interview because I was just flicking through. Oh, this okay. Let me see what they talking about. And he was in the middle of saying he always advises ministers, or preachers, as well as, you know, singers, those that are in the ministry, that there is a limit to how much glory you can get because who you're preaching or singing about ain't you. It's Jesus, you know. And sometimes people get like a, you know, a salvation kind of complex. The preacher thinks that, hey, I am the savior and you ain't. The musician or singer, hey, I can sing the, you know, crowd into the presence of, that's cool still, but you are still a vessel.
Absolutely.
So I think that's part of the soil that becomes susceptible to this adoration. I think the other thing we have to look at is that in the beginning, God made man and woman. So without going into the Greek or the Hebrew, we're going to use plain English. Dudes like chicks and chicks like dudes. Getting saved does not erase any of that. You still have natural attraction.
Oh, yeah.
You see somebody and they fine. Your first thing, if you are married, is let me put up some defense. Be pretty, but that's it for you, sir. Because you got a wife at home.
Right.
And same thing with the woman. She sees an attractive man, a tall drink of water, whatever y'all describe him as. You married though, ma'am, so get back to your husband. So I think that when you have these situations where the musician got the young lady that, you know, kind of like him, you know, she be always sitting over there.
Right.
Got
Everybody
the
done left the church. You still fixing your purse and picking up.
With
move around.
like an outfit on that, you know, showing some thigh. Now, because we still got men and women, he ain't Ray Charles. He got 20/20 vision. He can see that. Whoa. But as he's seeing it, he has to also, okay, now there's some restraint you have to exercise. And she just always in his face. Even if Holly Berry came in here right now with a mini skirt on and nothing up under and did
Oh gosh.
and said, that's him, you go.
My God.
Now that's a my gosh, but
It's the truth.
even,
We'll put her out.
even with that, Pastor Cheryl ain't going for, well, baby, I just, you know what? Nah, bro, you married. So what? She did that. You got somebody.
Okay,
so there's
to
a
the
level
point
of restraint that you have to have. And I think in those close circles in church, there are a lot of, I'll say, intimate situations, not intimate as in sexual, but intimate as in close quarters,
Absolutely.
sensitive things. A person's giving counseling to somebody that is going through some trauma. There's vulnerability there.
Big time.
So if the individual does not take it upon himself or herself to say, hey, man, there are certain lines I just ain't crossing. All are subject to temptation. Right. Jesus was tempted, in the wilderness. So ain't nothing wrong with being tempted. You just can't give in to the temptation. So what do you do to safeguard yourself, to have some sort of buffer, some mosquito repellent,
or people
so people
around you,
or your people, those accountability parts. Whatever your defense mechanism is, you need to have it. So when you get into those situations where vulnerability can take over you, you don't become overtaken with that, and that is some on you too. So, Mr. Musician, you call, they all like you, the group's all, go on, Cavell, go. He just.
Sorry to anybody named Cavell.
Right, my bad, but this is just an example. Yeah. And that's going on. He still, as a man of God, has to subject himself to the tenets of the Bible. He's still a man, he's still human, still all of that. But he still also has an ability to resist that temptation.
He has a choice to make, and I think that's what
choice to make.
That's what Dr. Peterson was saying last time. That's when it becomes abuse, when a leader decides not to make that choice, because there are some ethical ramifications around it. Just like as if you're a counselor or a therapist, like that person is not responsible. Yeah. There's no way you can twist it, shape it, whatever, because of your role and because of your position, and not whatever they do, Cavell. It's about who you said you are.
Right. And because again, Cavell, my bad, made a decision to hold my fault.
Right.
But it's because of who you say you are that responsibility is all yours. I got a question though, because we talking about the sexual abuse and how things can really get enmeshed and stuff like that. But I had a question about this whole like spiritual abuse concept, and perpetrating spiritually, i.e., the whole notion of control. And you're not saved unless you got my salvation, and
well, you say you're not saved unless what? You got my salvation?
Got my salvation. My salvation is you worship how I worship. You pray how I pray. You do what I say do. I don't talk to them, so you don't talk to them, because this is what God is telling me to do, et cetera, et cetera. Just the spiritual abuse that people can, because we touched on that last time.
Yeah, we didn't go into that.
Just a little something. Maybe it don't happen here.
Well, I mean, it does happen. I think when pastors or leaders operate in an autocratic manner and fashion, where that's it. What I just said is it. No one else can say anything to me. Left, right, left. We're going to go in this direction. Yeah. First of all, that's a level of maturity on their part where they can't really allow people to be individual or have agency. Yeah. I think the greatest thing about God that I absolutely love is that he knows that we all are different folks. Yes. He made us this way. And he has enough of himself that he can shape us and make us like him, because he is so vast. And so pastors have to also have that place and make sure that they are allowing individuals to experience God the way that they do. That's why there's fivefold ministries in there. Not just one ministry.
Exactly.
I have a struggle to add to your question. My part B, a subdivision question is, when these perpetrators do what they do, and I go into child pedophilia, and where do these people go? Even as adults, what we find is they just leave. Who do you report this to? Depending on what church you're in, there's nobody to report.
Is it a police thing?
Well, no, you minimalized me.
Oh, you mean that's what actually happened?
Oh, yeah, that is what actually happened.
What should happen is 9 because and also
1-1.
you know 220 safe.
Yeah.
As leaders, we are mandated reporters. So if there is no we gonna handle this internally, or we gonna figure this out as a body or as a family, and that's what happens so many times. No,
Then it
in
becomes
that
cultish.
absolutely, and the authority needs the laws for the lawless.
Well, and what if you tell me to drink the Kool-Aid, but I chose not to, and I just chose to leave? Who do I tell that to?
Going back to what you said, I know I'm jumping a little bit, but we have no time. We literally are done. But there was something that you said in sharing your transparent moment about your son. It really just kind of spoke to my heart. And I, as a question, I almost want to pose it to you, you know, as a consulting organization. Well, a couple things. One thing you said was that the lady was blessed. That God bless her. I know we were saying just kind of like, you know, God bless her.
She didn't
because
get beat up, hurt,
I understood
or
that.
die.
But that's what I'm saying. God bless you, really. Because if you would have probably went where you was going to go, then who knows where you may have ended up. So that was a covering of God for you, not for her. She gonna get hers. Okay, go ahead.
But I will say this: she was definitely a perpetrator in every sense. We found out later that she was like victim number 4, and she had gotten counseled through all these churches.
See,
And she just went from one church to the other.
well, so here's my next point, and this is where I want you to go. PTSD, is that a thing? That's how I'm saying it right. So what? Because I heard you say something, and I could relate to you because I've been through some things, and then it affected me in the sense that I was dealing with issues with certain people in the church. I could not, which is probably why I'm a member-ish of church and I don't belong because of some things
triggers
that have, and I can't. And so I got to really just kind of be away. And you said something about not leaving your children again with whoever. So I don't know if that's, is that PTSD? You know, how do we begin to heal from that? So we're not now judging everybody else because of what we've endured.
Well, in her case, I wouldn't say that's PTSD. I think that's just really creating an awareness and setting some boundaries around this has been my experience and this is not what I'm going to allow to happen again. But like, for example, in your case,
I'm sure mine is.
Being member-ish, no, real talk. I literally just began to kind of come full circle with my healing process last summer because I had gotten into a place where when I walked into churches, I would get immediate anxiety. And
I know it.
Like I love world outreach, but I would go and my heart would start beating fast. I would start sweating, and I'm a worshiper. Like I'm a licensed coaching evangelist. You know, I've preached, I've prayed on platforms, et cetera, et cetera. But I left a church, and I left that church because my husband said that the Father told him it was time. It's over. He said it's time. We out. But when I left the church, I no longer existed, which is why I really want to talk to your friend. I no longer had relationships with those that were in the church. I was told, you guys, I wasn't even given a 2 weeks notice. People give a job more than that. Yeah, but this ain't a job. This is church. And he said, the Father said, let's go. So we got to go. And still to this day, it's been some years. There are some relationships that have not come full circle because of our decision to leave and because of the position that we held in the church, which is incredibly abusive. You know,
Wow.
And it does not represent the love of the Father at all, but that whole notion of being triggered. So from that, then it placed something in me where I no longer felt welcomed in the house of God, period. Whatever church I walked into, it was like, snap, I don't belong here.
I mean, that's unfortunate.
And
that
your
level
final
of control.
thoughts too. This is your go around.
Final. Okay, since hurry up and wrap.
No. But this is
Get
it.
through it and hush.
No, you can go, but this is it. Just so get it all in.
I think that that example that you just gave, the once I'm out of the ministry, for whatever reason, I'm walking with my family, which is my first ministry. This is the decision that's been made. You can't even respect that. You just cut us off. We're now persona non grata now with the ministry,
and we family.
And we're family. Yeah.
No shade.
That crosses a line, and that ain't Jesus. That's man building up their own hoarding kind of mentality. That ain't scripture. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, it happened. It happens. We have to, hopefully stop doing it, but in the interim, still deal with it, but know that that's not God. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the one piece.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not a reasonable.
But what
way to
happens
treat
is, I think that I'll just say this in the black church, and I'm presuming that it was a black church that you were a part of. The church has played such a disproportionate role in the entirety of the people, going back from being the refuge during the enslavement of African Americans to the legalized segregation, the only place that we could go. And even you talk about positions, we're not hiring no dogs, no Negroes allowed. The one place that there could be any place of prominence, respect, recognition, was the church. The civil rights movement was led by clergy. And so in that pot of gumbo, there are some other things that kind of seeped in, and this hoarding piece, and I think some of that came in there, somewhere. I think ultimately, final comment, and I'll be quiet. Final comment is the Bible itself is to be our final arbiter, and that is what we put preeminence on. What does the Bible say? So if you are saying something, sir, even as Paul said, I don't care if it's an angel that's talking. If he ain't saying what's in the Bible,
right,
you don't have to receive that. And as we grow as mature Christians, conforming ourselves to Christ, that becomes our barometer of comparison. Right. What you're doing, what you're saying, how does that line up with Scripture? Right. And if it's off, I'm going to roll with what Scripture says, and I'm just going to trust God for the wisdom on how to engage with you in the midst of this obvious error.
I love it. And Pastor Tim, how can people connect to you and continue to even support your efforts?
You can email Pastor Tim at worldoutreachbtc.org. Follow me on LinkedIn.
You got some good nuggets on LinkedIn.
McMurtry. I have a thing. Well, Morning Timspiration.
I love him. Yes.
And he got his own parking spot.
See, book coming out, Volume 1, Morning Timspiration is on Amazon right now. You can go there and get it. Have some other things coming out as well. Right. So do that. Facebook, Tim McMurtry, Instagram, Mr. Timspiration. And those are a couple of ways you can get in contact with me.
And I love you, Pastor Tim.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, Miss Jerhonda, give us some final thoughts, kind of wrapping it all up.
I'll actually just connect with what Pastor Tim is saying. What stood out to me, what he said is that during the Civil Rights Movement, and we all had a common place. Well, that common place had a focus. We all linked arms to inequality and disproportionality and marginalization. Well, then what ended up happening, we turned from community in quite a number of cases. And those that stayed, we ended up just kind of focusing in and having this minor and micro relationship with each other rather than continuing our focus on what can we do for others is one of my biggest, where I think a great opportunity lies is the church getting completely reactivated into the community because it will make very clear the lines of responsibility, the lines of ethics, principles. It will be a self reflection for what God has asked us to do. And so when you go out and not only to refamiliarize yourself and give that person that left a new experience outside the church four walls to say this is Christianity.
Wow.
This is
that's
because
my heart.
I think
that's my heart,
and this is the final thing I'll say. When perpetrators go in, I think in my opinion, they're not looking at people, and I said that in the beginning, they're looking at a building. They're assuming this building that I'm going into have people that will not hurt me.
Yep.
Instead of if I came out and I evangelized to you on the street, you're going to have a different expectation of me than if I come into the church.
Absolutely.
And so I know that it's real. I know that perpetrators are real. I know that microaggressions, spiritual microaggressions are real. And I think that we need to have some sensitivity on both parts, and I still maintain that we have to utilize some common faculties that we have with the knowledge of people.
Agreed.
We should not expect them to be any better than our jobs, our employees, our coworkers, those same memes that we see every day on Facebook. We should use that vigilance to introspect, to inspect what's happening before we commit. But remember, I'm still outside too. I'm a part of the body, and I'm a part of society.
It's so real.
You're still subjected to any other kind of vulnerabilities that one would have.
Absolutely. And how can we connect with you, JoLanda? You got a lot going on.
That would be Pastor Tim.
You ain't got to give him your address. But come on.
j.b.mccray@outlook.com.
They ain't got to email. Well, y'all can email. Look, she put it out there now, y'all.
Yeah, j.b.mccray@outlook.com. But Pastor Tim will be happy to take any type of ministry engagement.
Is Mogul University?
Yep, Mogul University. I have a nonprofit organization that is specifically founded on helping returning citizens. We are now taking on juveniles as well. I'm actually adding on a major for traumatology.
Because totally.
Absolutely.
Yes,
we'll
connect.
Yes, please.
It's so needed in education when you're talking about prison to pipeline or pipeline to prison. If we can get some folks in there to do mediation beforehand, we can do alternatives to incarceration before. We need people to go back in and do mediation, please. Go back into the schools, offer your services for free. It only sometimes takes an hour a day, and you can get those children away from the juvenile justice system. I have Aristocrat events.
She the bomb. Oh my God. He's so good.
She is
It's so good. Yeah. All the women in worship, honey.
Aristocrat
The stage. Okay, sorry. I'm just saying.
Okay.
She's so amazing.
Walking Urban League,
New
Black and White Ball
information. She's
before.
everything.
Mandy Awards.
Mandy Award. Just
All
came-
of them joints.
My discernment said yes, please.
So but remember, I'm in a PhD program, so
Right, so she got a lot going on
yeah. But I appreciate you having me here, and
I want you to say one more thing.
what do you want me to say?
I want you to say something about doula.
All right, my shirt. Okay, so it says I'm about to be a doula. I'm a future doula. Milwaukee has, or actually around the nation, African American women. There is a huge infant mortality rate. I should actually know the statistic, but I don't. But I do know this: 1 out of 3 children die. There are a number of reasons why. The clinical part of it is that we are not, all of us are going in. We're not getting prenatal care. So when they come in, there's an abundance of us walking in, and we don't have the care from the nurses that we should have. They're overworked, kind of like the DAs. And so you walk in, they plug you up to all of the monitors, and in some cases you're left. Children are dying. Doulas are around to help that process. They are not midwives, but they visit your home. They make sure prenatal care is taking place. They allow you to have babies in your own home. You can go into centers. They have techniques to help the birthing process come easier. There is going to be a training in August. World Outreach is going to host it for 3 days, and then we're going to go to another location for the last day. But we love you to come. TwoSistersCircle.com. TwoSistersCircle.com. We are so lucky. We have the president of Donna International, Reve Sinclair. She actually just did a promo with Governor Gwen Moore at Sherman Phoenix. Congresswoman, sorry. Right. Mary Barrett. So, she just did a kickoff of Mama's First, right? So we're working on getting Medicaid so women can utilize doulas. It really is changing the world. And so if you want to be a doula and you're looking for something, it's great for returning citizens as well. It truly is an entrepreneurial type job, to be honest. You're going around, you're getting clients, but it's something that's so needed in the healthcare industry. And they do healing circles and
We'll have to definitely talk more about that,
sure.
Just even on another show, because I think a lot of people in our community may not even be aware of how to be connected to something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared.
And they're very scared, including me, because I'm like, what I got to do now? Okay, but don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. And in closing, JoLanda Rogers, resident counselor, Believers After Dark. Talk Consulting.
Yeah, I just, want to say that specifically to those that have been perpetrators, in the church and in leadership, you have a responsibility, and your responsibility is to stay true to who you declare to be. When people come into the church, they're not giving you a title. They're not saying that you're this or that. That's who you told them you are, and that's who they trust you to be. And whereas common sense is essential, it's not common. And sheep don't have the mental capacity to make wise decisions all the time. So we are responsible as a body for doing right by those that come into the house. And then the other thing that I would just say is that if you have been a perpetrator and you're on a healing journey, there is healing for you. I do believe that transformation is possible. I believe people change. I believe the Father heals. And if you are still exhibiting the behavior, stop it.
Wow.
S-T-O-P, new word, I-T. Stop it.
Yeah.
Last thing, in terms of spiritual abuse, what I do want to speak to what I said earlier. I made a mistake in the body. I said something, and I said it in private, corridors, but I still said it. It was lawful. It wasn't expedient. And the leader simply said to me, I can't forgive you for what you said. It was lawful. Just it wasn't expedient. Wasn't cuss words or anything like that. Still. He's like, I can't forgive you. And if you've been in a position where you've been abused by clergy, either by lack of forgiveness or by any other offense, I just need you to know that the Father can forgive you, and He does forgive you, and He does love you. And don't charge to God what you charge to man, because He is not man.
Amen.
And don't leave Him because you've had to leave people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
that's
something
great.
that I've really
There's
just
a place
clung
for
to.
them. There's
the
a
last 2
place.
years.
There's a
Absolutely.
place. They just have to trust and seek out that place for them. All ministers and all clergy are not that way.
No, that's very
It's
true.
not.
I'm glad that
They're
we can
just
end it
not.
on that note.
Very true.
Well, they said it all, y'all. Look, this has been another amazing Believers After Dark, a intense topic that we're addressing. And again, this is just where we start the conversation. This is not where the conversation ends. Please continue these conversations at your own churches, in your own homes, in the community. We can't begin the healing process until we can at least begin talking about it and being transparent about it in a non-judgmental environment, and in a non-judgmental way. Well, I love you guys so much. Please join us next week for another episode of Believers After Dark right here on Saved in the City TV, and keep us in your prayers, because we are all up in the enemy's camp, and he ain't gonna be too satisfied about it. But that's all right, because the land has already been promised to us, and we're taking it by force.
Absolutely.
And until next week, I love you guys. Be encouraged. Bye.
I remember one particular instance. This gentleman was, we'll use an old school word, gigoloing.
Gigoloing.
For real.
Dang.
Victor. And so,
Did you call his name?
no,
Oh, ish.
I was talking about Eddie Murphy.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm like,
We all waited. I was like, what's
I know Cavell did it, but Victor too.
Partners in crime.
Right. So this gentleman was making his rounds. So this one particular person who lived above another person said, such and so is being taken advantage of. I made the mistake of approaching her and saying, you're being taken advantage of, not to mention the fact you're serving. So it might be a good idea that you might want to consider what you're doing, because like the woman that stayed, I can't make her do anything.
Oh, yeah.
However, I took a further step and I let my leaders know that this accusation was made. I wasn't there. This accusation was made. So that was the extent of my reporting. But it turned out the same brother got pregnant, got somebody else pregnant, abused another person, hit another person.
It goes on.
So we hold, personally, what I have seen is offenders are just taken under the wing and given way too much rope.
Yeah.
Their leash is way too long, you know, and you don't want to kick them out, but man, they don't have to stay in our house.
No, really, because and not to bring this up, I was just thinking about just the Jehovah's Witness faith. I know this doesn't have anything to do necessarily with us, but I have a friend that was trying to leave that faith. And that is darn near impossible. And I don't want to speak for them because I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I don't know all of their practices, but he happened to be a leader in the Jehovah's Witness faith. And so anyway, so it's been great because when they leave, they have to leave everything. Mother, father, like no one can acknowledge them as even existing. So I can't even imagine the type of abuse that he has endured. And he will actually, that's why I need to bring one because he can openly talk about it. I don't know now because nobody even he doesn't exist. And so I can't imagine like where would somebody like that go? You know, so that's that. And then this is kind of I don't know if it's funny, but it's unfortunate. But I was at one church in particular, and this was a Christian church, and there was a woman up giving her testimony, honey. She was all the way in, and just, you know, she had already did her little, you know, the intro little part, and she was into the meat of it. And the bishop of that particular church, or that was his title, was entering, and everything had to stop because the bishop, and literally, there were people that said, the bishop's come. Like, she was in the middle crying, and she was telling her, and we all had to stand up and applaud. This is a church, I will say, here in Milwaukee. And applaud this man.
Wait.
Well,
Was it like 30 people? I don't want to know who. I just want to know, was it like 30 people?
It was a smaller ministry.
Okay, all right.
And everybody had to stand up. Now, this is where it gets a little crazy. The person that didn't stand up, they got snatched with a shepherd.
with a who?
A shepherd's
Wait,
Sandman. They got
somebody
Sandman?
came out with the shepherd's hook. I said, I literally, it blew
my God.
I'm gonna laugh for the rest of the
show. And so I was like, I don't know what kind of abuse this is. But
did you stand up?
Okay, yeah, all right.
She didn't want that. She didn't want that hook.
Mr. Sandman will not come get me.
It wasn't me.
In their house, I'm obedient. I'm up like. It was insane. I ended up leaving. I was there to support someone else that was there. When they finished what they did, I was out.
Yeah,
I was completely out. So I'm just saying, there's so many things that are going on.
There's such a minimalist, hierarchy that we have, and we take it out of context at the end of the day. Superiority takes over where we need to have basic common respect.
Yeah, that was a dark alley that I walked through to get there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and it's mental illness. When you think that somebody should reverence you and you cloaking people with a shepherd's hook.
And these folks was right with them, and that's what scared me. Yeah. And the person snatched the microphone from the lady that was doing the testimony and started going into whatever they were supposed to be singing as he walked down the aisle.
Because the bishop was coming.
His theme song. He was, honey, squalling.